Hey innovators, I've got a tasty treat for you. We've got Salim Teja, who is the president of Venture Services for MaRS, where he leads the strategic direction of the MaRS Venture Services in 4 complete different areas: energy and environment, the whole Cleantech space, finance and commerce, the FinTech space, health, and work and learning. Salim is an experienced entrepreneur and an active early-stage technology investor with deep industry expertise in software and digital media. Salim joined MaRS in 2013, where he's leading the venture services groups. But prior to that, he joined from Indigo Books in music, where he was the vice president of corporate development, and he drove the formation of the company's digital innovation lab. Prior to that, Salim held position as the COO at CX Digital, a leading online ad network. He's also held roles as a COO of B5 Media and a partner with the early-stage VC firm Brightspark Ventures, where he was a driving force behind investments, including Radian6, recently acquired by Salesforce.com. And he was also the co-founder and vice president of sales and business development for a San Francisco-based Mob Shop Inc., a pioneer in online group buying funded by GE Capital, Visa International, Mayfair Fund, and Mark Anderson. He's also a graduate of the University of Western Ontario, the Richard Ivey School League of Business. So welcome, Salim. That's impressive credentials. Welcome, Salim. I cannot say how impressive your credentials are. They really make me blush that I aspire to be so much more like you. So, Salim, for our listeners out there, could you tell us a little bit what exactly is MaRS?
Sure. So MaRS is one of the world's largest urban innovation hubs. It's an innovation center right in the heart of downtown Toronto. We've been around for about 13 years, and the vision of the early founders was, how do we build a place where we can activate all of the different partners that are important to the innovation process? And then how do we build a program that helps us find the companies that have the highest potential driven by science and technology, and how do we help accelerate their path to become global businesses from Canada? And so the vision was always, how do we build a place, and how do we build a program, and how do we put Toronto and Canada on the map globally? And I think 13 years later now, what we have is, one of the world's largest urban innovation centers. It's about 1.5 million square feet of space, and a flagship program that I lead called MaRS Venture Services, which today has about 1,200 active startups that are participating in the program. So it's a very bold, ambitious project to get Toronto and Canada on the map, and it's been a great journey to kind of see it at work and now seeing it have global impact.
Oh, it's amazing. It's kind of been seen as kind of like almost like the innovation godfather of Toronto and Canada.
And listen, I think it was certainly the foresight of some of the early founders who had the vision that, this type of platform was important to the city, was important to the country, and certainly as an economy, as we started to shift away from natural resources towards science and technology, how are we going to create the companies of tomorrow and thereby the jobs of tomorrow to really drive Canada's growth? And so I think MaRS is one of the crown jewels that the country has to really help accelerate the growth of this sector.
I love it. And you know what else I love? Can we just talk about your Sick Kids versus Technology campaign? That has got to be the sleekest, sexiest commercial that empowers people beyond belief. And for our audience out there, I will definitely put the links because they have this one video about Sick Kids versus Undeniable, and you just feel like you want to get behind it. How did that come about?
Yeah, so listen, we have an unbelievable institution here in Toronto called the Sick Kids Hospital that has a really global reputation. And I think what we found as a tech community here in Toronto, that Toronto's having its moment right now. We have some unbelievable companies that are reaching, growth and scale stage and are starting to get on the global map. We have global corporates now coming into the city, wanting to be part of the community and investing in teams and resources. We've got global investors now that are coming into the market to, make some big bets on our companies, and we've got global talent now coming in, really driving the talent that's needed for a lot of these companies. So we felt that there was this moment that Toronto was having, and how could we do something different to really catalyze the local ecosystem, to give back to our community, to give back to our city. And a colleague of mine, Jody Kovitz, who had a relationship with sick kids, conceived of this concept around why don't we get the tech community together to raise some funds to really help the hospital on their big campaign to build the next generation of children's hospital here in Toronto. And so it's a $25 million campaign that we are spearheading. The goal is to use the money to set up a chair at the Sick Kids Hospital in artificial intelligence and machine learning so that they can take advantage of some of the big trends happening in that world. B, set up some programs to really help them build out their work in bioinformatics and big data. And third is to help them build a next generation emergency room to reinvent the child's experience as they're going in through the hospital. Now, this is part of a $1.3 billion campaign that the hospital is raising right now to really fully transform itself. And so we think this is a small way for the tech community to give back and be a small part of this very important mission.
It's amazing. It is seriously, it just shows about how technology is impacting all the different industry sectors. Then there's so many things that are possible now because of technology. And it just really speaks to that dynamic.
Absolutely.
I love it. So what excites you most about the innovation that's happening out here in Canada? Like, what are you seeing as big trends or areas that are, just got so much potential?
Yeah, so I'd say there's two things that I'm observing right now that are exciting. I think the first is, we are really seeing our startup ecosystem mature right now. 10 years ago or 5 years ago, we had a lot of activity, but a lot of these companies were very, very early stage, seed stage. And so, it was hard to kind of build momentum and get them globally connected. And now I think what we're finding, fast forward 5 years, is that we have so many companies now that are raising $30, $40, $50 million in capital and really being bold and ambitious in what they're doing, around the world with their companies, that it's nice to see our ecosystem mature now and the entrepreneurs getting the kind of capital and talent that they need to be big global companies. And so I think that is a trend that's really exciting, and I think it's reflective of what's happening in Toronto and why the world is paying attention today to what's happening in Toronto and more broadly in Canada. So that's exciting. From a sector perspective, MaRS focuses on 4 sector areas. So we have dedicated teams in health, in Cleantech, in FinTech, and in enterprise software, which is really covering the future of work and learning. And I think that all 4 of those sectors right now are going through massive innovation cycles and massive transformation. And so I'm excited to sort of see all of these sectors, active at the same time, going through all of this great innovation and activity. Certainly, all of these industries are being impacted by digital. All of these industries now are dealing with new types of users, new demographics of users, and they're trying to build new product innovation and new types of services to engage their customers. And so I think that's a big trend that we're seeing. Certainly mobile first and cloud first are sort of big trends that we're seeing across all of these sectors. And then for me, I think what's also very exciting is all 4 of these sectors not only have opportunities to build, big growing companies, but also allow us to have impact in the world. We're starting to focus on problems that really have meaning, problems that are worth solving, and have that social impact opportunity as well. And so, when I think about the future of health and how we're going to take care of our aging population and all of the new diseases that are emerging, when I think about the future of energy and how we're going to, power our electricity grid or power the types of infrastructure that we need in our future, I think that's exciting. When I think about, the financial system, and how do we build models that are more inclusive and protect privacy and data. I think there's a whole revolution happening there. And then certainly when we think about the whole world of work and learning and how different work styles and tools and technologies are changing the way we think about going to school and also going to work, I think that lots of incredible, exciting things happening across all of those sectors. And so that's the second thing that's exciting for me. And then third are some of the technology areas that I think Toronto is becoming very well known for. And so specifically AI and machine learning is a very, very big technology area for us, as is sensors, networks, the whole IoT space, I think is a big area for us. Cybersecurity is an emerging area. Blockchain is a growing area. The whole world of robotics and next-gen manufacturing is a big area for us. And then AR and VR and the whole world of immersive content and immersive data, I think have some really interesting hotspots developing in Toronto. So when you take all of those things and combine it together, I think you really get a sense of the excitement that we're building here in Toronto.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I mean, every time we get a new podcast guest on there, and it's just amazing of how much they are revamping and really driving that innovation out there. And it's across all different sectors, and it's so exciting to hear how they're incorporating all of these cool tools out there. It's kind of mind-blowing sometimes.
Yeah.
So now that you've worked with so many different types of entrepreneurs and innovators, is there any kind of key business lessons or advice that you would love to share out there?
Yeah, listen, I think that, as I've observed how our ecosystem has emerged, I think one of the things that we're now learning is that, the process of starting a company is actually becoming easier and easier. The tools that are out there for entrepreneurs, the capital efficiency of the early stage of these companies, the networks that are forming, all of the incubators, accelerators, the online programs. There is just a wealth of data that's available there for people that are interested in starting companies. Where we're seeing a challenge right now is helping entrepreneurs grow and scale their businesses. And, that takes a very different kind of expertise, a very different kind of skill set, a very different kind of business network and technical network. And I think, we are also reinventing ourselves to say, how do we as an innovation start to help those kinds of entrepreneurs as they're graduating from this sort of the start stage of their business and really trying to focus on growing revenue and raising capital in order to get to the next stage of their business. And so that's where we're spending, a lot of our time these days.
Are there any kind of key mistakes that you see these innovators make time and time again?
Listen, I think, there are business fundamentals that I think always are true, which is, you got to focus on solving a problem that people understand and that people prioritize as a problem worth solving. You need to stay away from nice-to-have solutions and really focus on must-have solutions. Now, sometimes must-have solutions are driven by technology breakthroughs. Sometimes they're driven by, regulatory environments that are changing or new market segments that are opening up. And so I think, when we look at companies, the question that I always ask is, why this idea? Why now for this idea to take off, and why are you the right team or the right group to make this happen? So why this, why you, why now are the things we really drill into as we're looking at, whether an opportunity is going to be a good opportunity or a high growth opportunity.
Wow, I love that. Why this, why you, and why now? Those are great why questions. So we have had a lot of podcast guests on the show, and I usually ask them about what tools they utilize. And they always majority of them mention the MaRS Institute. So there is tons of tools that, whether they're part of MaRS or not, that they can leverage. Would you be able to tell us a bit more about that?
Absolutely. So, a lot of the content that we develop for our programs and for our entrepreneurs, we have open sourced on our website. And so we have an online entrepreneurship course called Entrepreneurship 101 that we offer, which is a really great resource for people that are looking to jump into the entrepreneurial world and really get a comprehensive view of how to go about building their journey as they're becoming entrepreneurs. And so I think that's an incredible resource that's available on our website. We also have something called the Entrepreneur's Toolkit, where we have forms and templates and a lot of materials that can serve as guides for people who are starting to think through the next phase of turning their idea into action. And how do you build a business plan, and how do you build a model, and how do you go out and raise capital, and what are the materials and tools that you need for that? And we've put that all online as well. And so, they've been very, very popular tool sets. I think our Entrepreneurship 101 course, which we actually used to teach in person at our center, we have graduated now more than 50,000 people from the program that have taken the course in person, and we have probably over 1 million visitors a month that are leveraging the content online. And so it really is getting global circulation now. And I think what you'll find there are tools, strategies, and content that are evergreen, regardless of what you're doing and when you're doing it. I think that there's some fundamental principles there that can be very helpful to people that are looking to get some guidance.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. And for our audience, I'll put all the links in the show notes so you'll be able to quickly click and utilize them very fast. All right, so let's get to this. Is there a really great sales or marketing tip that you can provide?
Listen, I think that what I've learned in my career is you always got to be hustling. You always got to get customers, and you got to get feedback, and you have to be not shy about picking up the phone and making the call, or going to the conference and doing power networking. I think it's one thing to be sitting in a room with your colleagues, designing a next generation technology or a next generation business model. It's quite something else to actually go out there and get people's attention, get people's opinion, try and get your first pilot, your proof of concept. And I think that a lot of people shy away. They find that intimidating, but it is such a crucial and important part of the company building process that I think building skills that allow you to feel comfortable being out there, building your network, meeting the kinds of customers and partners that are important for your business. I think that takes real hard work, but it's such an important part of the journey, and we always try and teach our entrepreneurs not to shy away from that part of the process.
Love that. Don't be shy, and you always have to have the hustle. I'm going to put these words on my new t-shirt that I'm going to build. So, Salim, I'm a huge fan of yours. I've been watching your career for many, many years, and you just have so much wealth of knowledge and information. Do you have any key business philosophies or favorite quotes that sometimes keeps that Eureka moment to help you stay focused?
Yeah, listen, I think that we are, I've been in the technology industry for the past 20 years. I love the tech sector because I really do feel that we are at a special moment in time where we are inventing the future right now. And I get to come to work every day at a place where I get to meet entrepreneurs who have bold ideas and they want to change the world. And it's an incredibly inspiring place to be. I think, what I've learned over the last little while is that the whole innovation space, the whole company building space, the whole startup space is about people. Make sure you find people that can be good team members, be good co-founders, can be good partners, can be good investors in your business. This is regardless of how digital this world gets. We can't forget about the people aspect of what we're doing, and so I really encourage our entrepreneurs to think carefully about the partners they choose and the relationships that they build as they're going through this journey, because those, a company may come or go, but these relationships will last for a long, long time. And so you not only want to build your own reputation out there, but you want to try and tap into the smartest people that you can find to help you on your journey. And so it's hard for one person or one small group to know everything. And quite often when you're building a business, there's no right or wrong answer. You just got to kind of navigate your way through a lot of gray areas in order to get to the other side. And so often having, good people around you to help you through that process can really make a difference between succeeding and failing.
Amazing. And so then how do you juggle it all between your personal side and your business? Because you've got such a huge portfolio and you're such an active member in the community. How do you make it all happen?
Listen, I think, what's worked out for me is all of my personal interests overlap with my professional job. And so, I enjoy what I do. And so, I like to do it as work and I like to do it as play, and that makes it a lot of fun. I think that there are so many great initiatives that are bubbling up right now in Toronto, whether it's the Sick Kids initiative, whether there's, it's an initiative focused on growing diversity and getting more women into the innovation space with organizations like Move the Dial, for example, or whether it's through, really growing Toronto and Canada's global profile by launching a new festival called Elevate to really capture the world's attention and to bring people here to show them all the great things that are happening. I think all of these sort of personal passions of mine reinforce, what I'm doing professionally, and I find myself to be in a really lucky spot. So, I couldn't imagine a more perfect job for me than this.
Well, it looks like you're mixing business with pleasure, and you found your natural passion. I love that. So, do you have a book or that you recommend to others, or something that really resonated with you?
Yeah, listen, when I think about my own entrepreneurial journey and I hear about the hundreds of entrepreneurs that are going through their own journeys, I think the one book that really hit home for me is a book called The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz, who's a partner at Andreessen Horowitz. It is an incredible book about the journey of being a founder and what it takes to be a entrepreneur, both through the highs and the lows of the process. I think it is an honest book that talks about, how do we deal with the things that we know we should be doing, with the things that we don't know how to do as we're growing a company. I think it's incredibly insightful. I think it speaks honestly about the entrepreneurial journey. And it would be the one book that I would, prescribe to anyone thinking about jumping into the entrepreneurial world and wanting to embark upon an entrepreneurial path. And so that's, I think, been an all-time favorite of mine. Oh,
that's wonderful. I'm definitely going to check that out myself. And do you have a personal habit that helps you stay productive?
Good question. I mean, I think, the challenge for me has always been, because I juggle a lot, just the overwhelming communications that are coming in via email, phone, that I have to triage in order to get to the stuff that really matters. And I think, what I'm finding now is I have 4 very different channels that I use in a different way. I've got emails that I use one way. I've got Slack that I use in another way to manage my team. I've got texts and messaging platforms that I use for more immediate activities that need my immediate attention, and then certainly phone calls that are sort of a more personal path of communication. And I think, what I've learned is how to use those 4 channels in different ways in order to triage all the things that I need to deal with and be able to use them to action, decisions quickly. And so I'm still learning to kind of use that methodology, but I think as more and more of these platforms emerge, I think, people should think about how they use them uniquely in order to interact with either certain types of stakeholders or certain types of tasks or certain urgency of issues. And so that's sort of what I'm trying to learn to get better at.
Oh, that's amazing. You're right. It is a noisy world. So having your own communication strategy would work out best to kind of figure out how to get the maximum impact. That's brilliant.
Exactly.
So not that you get much downtime, is there a favorite kind of Canadian town, city, hotspot, restaurant that you gravitate towards to kind of get your balance?
Well, listen, I grew up in Western Canada. I grew up in Edmonton, Alberta, and so hockey lives in my blood, and I'm an Edmonton Oilers fan. And so both as a pastime in playing hockey, but also in being a big fan, I think that is a huge part of my upbringing. I've got 2 young kids now, 12 and 10, that are a lot of fun, and every spare moment that I have, I like to share with them and try and expose them to some of the things that I get to do here. And so, those are, some important parts of my life that I try and make time for.
Oh, amazing. And finally, how can our listeners connect with you?
Listen, I think that check out our website, marsdd.com. I think you'll see the plethora of stuff that goes on in our center and in our programs. I am on Twitter at Salim Teja as my Twitter handle, and so certainly folks can reach out there. And happy to help share my learnings and connect.
Thank you so much for joining us. I cannot say thank you enough. I know your time is really precious, valuable, and very scarce these days with all the things that you work on. So once again, seriously, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks again for joining us this week. It's been a blast as usual. Next week, we've got a really interesting guest. Here's a quick sneak peek.
So it was about 9 months after the concept for R Loop was floated on Reddit, and 9 of us went to that presentation, and it was the first time that any of us had met in person. All of our work had been done virtually and online up to that point. And so we won an award there, which was the best non-student design. And that gave us the permission to proceed to the final step of the competition, along with 27 other teams, to build our prototype. Then we had a sort of a challenge there because it's with a lot of these tools that are available now online, we could facilitate a lot of the design, specification, and simulation side. But manufacturing and testing a physical prototype was something entirely new for us. And that was a huge accomplishment, I think, for our team, was to be able to mobilize a community local to the SpaceX facilities. We wanted to build the vehicle as close to where it would ultimately be tested as possible. And so we kind of used the same processes we did to build out our online community to build a local manufacturing community. And then we developed certain processes and adopted certain tools to connect them, the in-person makers, to our distributed virtual team in order to kind of realize these designs that we had made.
Thanks, everyone, for joining in and tuning in this week. Next week, we've got another really cool episode. I hope you enjoyed the sneak peek. I'm going to try to do this and see how this works. If you guys are interested, like the little sneak teasers, let me know. I'd love to hear back from all of you. And don't forget to hit subscribe and leave a review. And let me know if you know of another Canadian innovator that's doing something really cool around the world. Let's get them showcased. Or if there's an innovation trend that you would like to specifically focus on. Anyways, looking forward to hearing from all of you and talk to you next week. Cheers.